Hi, in this video, we will talk about final keyword in Java. So what do you mean by final keyword in Java? So the final keyword in Java is used to restrict the usage or modification by other classes or variables. Okay, so using this keyword, one tells the interpreter not to allow any future modification to that variable or method and treat it as constant. So if you have a variable, so if you want to restrict that not to change in the future, then you can make it as a final. And you have a method, you should have any restricted access to that method, then you can use final. So in which scenarios we'll use final? So we'll discuss about that in three scenarios. At the variable level, at methods level, at classes level, you can use this final final keyword. So what do you mean by final variable? So to create a constant variables and modification not allowed on that variable. So if you create a variable, if you do not want to change that variable value in the future, then you can make it as a final. Let's take an example in the mathematics pi. Pi value is constant. If you should not change that. Okay, so that value you can make it as a final, then nobody can change that value. And the same way for methods, declaring a method as final restricts method overriding of that method in the child classes. You have a parent class. In the parent class, you have some methods. In the child class, you can override in normal way. But if you do not want to override some of the methods from the parent class, then make them final. Then child classes cannot override those methods. So classes, declaring a class as final prevents the inheritance of that class. You have a class and you don't want anybody to inherit that class. So make that class as final, so nobody can inherit that class. Okay. So these three things, by taking one example, we'll see. So let me go to Visual Studio Code. So I have created three classes: final variable demo, final method demo, final class demo. We'll take one by one and we'll see. So first take an example of int num is equals to 10. Okay. Then write system.out.println. I'll print the number. So after this line, I will assign another value to the same variable num. And again, system.out.println, I'll print num. Okay. So here it will print 10, but in this line, I reassigned some other value to the number. So 20. So then the I value is 20. Now we'll get 20 here. Okay. So we'll try to execute and see what happens. Java say it executed. You see that 10, 20 printing. Okay. So, but this number value, you should not change in your program or somewhere after initializing like this. You initialize and then assign some value to this. And in the future, you don't want to change the value of this num from 10 to some value. Here I made it 20, but I don't want to do this. I want to restrict like this. Okay. So then make it final. Final is a keyword. Make it final. Final int num is equals to 10. Then if you try to compile this now, you see that at the compile time only you got an error saying error cannot assign a value to final variable num. Okay, you cannot assign a value to the final variable. Right. Now nobody can change like this. You cannot change like this. Num is equals to num plus some 30, something like this. Whatever it is, we cannot do all these things. Okay. So this is the final keyword at variable level. Okay. Now, if it is final, it will throw an error. What is that error? You cannot assign a value to final variable num. Okay. So we'll take another example for method. we are discussing, we cannot override if you declare as a final. So override means there should be inheritance concept. If you want to use inheritance concept, you need at least 2 classes. So let me create another class. I say parent. Inside this, I have a public void. Just take an example method. And system.out.println. Then I'll say parent class method. Okay. So here I will override that. Before that, I need to extend this parent class. Okay. So then I will try to override, means I'll take as it is and I copy paste. So I overridden this method. So now I'll create an object to this class, and I'll call that method. It's quite simple. We already saw in polymorphism. So what is method overriding? So we did the same thing. So the same method in the parent class, I'm using the same method. So now if you call this one, automatically it will call this local class method as a priority. Okay, let me execute this and we'll see what happens. You'll not find any issues. And it will print parent class. Sorry, I need to change this to, I'll just change this. So then we'll see the exact output, means the difference. You see that we have overridden. So we changed our implementation. So I have my own implementation in this class. So I'm able to execute this logic. But I don't want to override this method. I want to restrict not to override this method from this parent class. Then what you can do, you just make it final. Okay, public final void. I added this final keyword. Okay, now if you try to compile this, you see that method in final method demo cannot override method in parent. Overridden method is final. Okay, you cannot do this. Okay, overridden method is whatever the method you overridden, that is a final in this parent class. So you cannot override the class. But this is how you can restrict. That is the advantage of final. In some reasons, if you do not want to override any methods, then make them final. But this is another usage of final. So the third one. Final class demo. So what I'll do, I'll take the same example. Let me copy paste everything. Okay, so I took the same thing and change this final. This is not final. Okay, now no issues, right? Simple overriding. Then we can simply execute Java C .java. No issues. What happened? Duplicate class. Sorry, I did not extend parent. So I forgot to extend that. Sorry, I need to execute final class demo. Again, duplicate class parent, final method demo. So what mistake we did? Okay, this is, I have copy pasted. I need to change this. So typo issues. So let me execute again. Let me compile. This is no issues. Java final class demo. This is the tail class method. So whatever we did, with same thing we did, I removed the final And this is quite simple, but I don't want to extend this class. I don't allow somebody to extend this parent class. Here I extended, right? But I don't want to extend this class. So then make the class as final class. So final class. Then I did not use any final here. So I can override in normal scenario, but when I make it final, you observe the behavior. You see that error cannot inherit from final parent. You see, cannot inherit the final parent, and where it is showing extends parent here. So if you do not want to extend your class to some other class, then make the class as final. Then nobody can extend that class. Okay, using final keyword. This is another usage of final keyword. Okay, so we have seen final variable. If you make it a variable final, you cannot change the value. Okay, final method, if you make a method as final, so you cannot override in your child class. If you make a class as final, you cannot override that class. Okay, so this is the advantage of using final in these three scenarios. Okay, so let me go to PPT. So what could be the possible interview questions here? What is final keyword in Java? How many ways we can use final keyword in Java? So that's all in this video. Thank you.